What's going on, everybody? This is Parks back with the Play the Fight song reviews and recaps of our favorite teams. I'm going to be talking on Nebraska Northwestern today. Nebraska defeats Northwestern 17-9 this Saturday in possibly the most Big Ten West fashion way a football game can go. I mean, it was about as ugly as you could imagine. Nebraska wasn't good on the offensive side of the ball. Northwestern wasn't good on the offensive side of the ball either. Both defenses were actually pretty good. We'll dive into everything, stats, all that good stuff. But I just want to say my initial takeaway from the game was we need some help on offense. Obviously, we've been injury ridden the entire year. Billy Kemp goes down. Ethan Piper goes down. Now he's not playing the offensive side of the ball anymore, but Tommy Hill goes down. He isn't playing the second half because of an ankle injury. So we're going to have to really set into what the coaches have already talked about into being who we are. We're really going to need to run the ball more effectively than we did. We actually didn't have too bad of a day rushing. We had 160 rushing yards total, just a little over that. Emmett Johnson was the leading carrier. I'll get into those stats later on when we look at the offense. But just back to my initial takeaways, I really think this team knows it's defensive minded, but they really need to find some sort of rhythm offensively, because when you put your defense on the field as much as we did this Saturday, you're going to run into issues with teams that aren't in the Big Ten West. Now, we have a very favorable schedule finishing out the year, so I think maybe it could work out in some games. I think Iowa and Nebraska to end the year might be the worst football game to ever exist. I am not looking forward to watching it. I think it's going to be a vomit on the screen, and it's just going to be thrown at us the whole game. Um, I'm not going to touch on the Iowa loss. JP's video hopefully will drop soon. He's still recapping and refreshing in his head from what happened to Iowa, but that will be an ugly football game. Now, let's take a look at this Northwestern team and kind of what they came in with. Obviously, in the preview, if you got a chance to check that out, don't go watch it now because you know what happened. But Ben Bryant did not play. He was expected to play. It was going to be a game time decision day before the game, way after the release of the preview. They announced he's not going to play, still ridden by that upper body injury he sustained against Purdue, which is completely understandable from the defensive battle you just saw Purdue have Ohio State. Terrible football game, by the way. Big Ten's bad sometimes. So Braden Sullivan took the majority of the snaps, junior Braden Sullivan for Northwestern, and he just couldn't find a rhythm. And I don't know whether to credit that to how bad Northwestern is or how good the blackshirts were. I mean, they thought they were fantastic. It was a fun atmosphere. I was at the game. It was loud. Memorial Stadium was ready to go, but it was just pretty much bad football all around. But the Blackshirts made a couple more plays to just make this kind of a cruising feeling win for Nebraska when realistically it was still only one score. So, I'm trying to think Northwestern's offense. I don't know a good word for it because I don't want to discredit Nebraska and what they did defensively. They only forced one turnover, and it was a bad turnover at the end of the half. Tommy Hill picked off a Hail Mary attempt that was 30 yards short of the end zone. But I want to highlight a couple of key plays. Tyus III was the leading rusher for Northwestern. He was pretty good. When they ran the ball effectively, he was on the field. Cam Porter really couldn't find a rhythm. Once again, like we said, they've kind of struggled all year to find a rushing game and have an identity any bit in the rushing area of the football game. 39-yard rush came from Tyus. He was hawked down by Omar Brown, who made the wrong read on the play. I know it doesn't feel like a big play, and you're like, all right, 40-yard run. Why are we giving that up to Northwestern? But Northwestern only scored 3 field goals in the game. If we give up, I hate to revert back to last year because we got to stop doing this, but those teams, we give up scores after big plays, right? We don't respond well to adversity. But there's 2 different scenarios. I'll point out the other one after this, that we talk somebody down after a big play, and then we hold them to 3. That really embracing that bend, don't break mentality. I've noticed that all year long. Nebraska's been very good at when they give up a big play or when something goes wrong, all of a sudden they're inside the 10, inside the 5, and they end up giving up 3, which is great. We'll take that. I mean, that keeps you in ball games, especially when your offense is playing as bad as Nebraska is. Kurtz on the offensive side of the ball for Northwestern. He was their leading receiver. He continued to be their leading receiver. He had a really, really good route against Malcolm Hartzog. Went for 66 yards, I believe, just maybe 67. Hartzog also hawks him down from 10 yards behind him, gets him down, I think, at the 7-yard line, holds Northwestern to a field goal that drive. That's huge. That's what we need. And it really set the tone for the entire game. I think another big play came from Isaac Gifford. Northwestern kind of had a couple of good plays, got a couple of first downs driving, They throw a screen pass. We are terrible at sniffing out screens. We have been for 5-6 years. But Isaac Gifford comes from the opposite side of the football field, makes probably the best play of the entire game. And that just shut them down. They made plays. They stepped up and made plays when they need to. And that results in winning football, even if it's as ugly as it was. Let's look at Nebraska's offense. I know this is kind of the point that everybody hits where you're like, they're bad. Whenever they came out in the field, I'm sitting at the game with my fiance who goes to one game a year with me. And she's like, even when our offense would run on the field, she'd be like, here we go. Here's the offense again. This will be quick. If that's coming from a person who watches football, mostly because she's kind of forced to, not really paying attention though, she knows, she already got a clue in on to kind of what's been going on. Granted, there's a lot of weapons out and we lost even more. So just still trying to figure it out. But with how bad they came out after a bye week, it was kind of despicable because it was slow. We didn't have any big explosive plays, maybe a couple from Emmett Johnson and obviously the touchdown pass, which we'll get into. But let's take a look at statistically. Harburg 8 for 17 for 85 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. The 2 picks both came in the first quarter within 10 minutes of each other. First ball, he had 2 open receivers. All he had to do was look off one of the safeties. He just underthrows it right to him. First play of the game. 14:53 left. Northwestern's already got a turnover on the board. Nebraska fans, here we go again, right? Luckily, this team responds a little better to adversity. And I think Matt Rule made a good point in his post-game presser where he's talking about, if that game happens week 1, week 2, I think we lose that game. I think he's right. I think this team handled adversity much better. Maybe it's because they know who they're playing, and Northwestern, as much as we want to say it, is far more inferior team. We just got to figure our stuff out and maybe stay healthy. But Harburg was okay. He's fumbled a couple of snaps. I think the thought popped into a lot of Husker fans' head, which I talked on in the preview. Maybe we could get Jeff Sims some look here because it wasn't much different than the play that Jeff Sims has given us the first 2 weeks. But I don't know. It's another argument for Husker fans to kind of figure out. I still would like Sims to take some snaps. I know he's ready to go now. So I definitely thought, and I'm interested to hear, I know that a couple of media members from Nebraska were going to ask Coach Rule that tomorrow, which is Monday. Tonight's Sunday night. So Monday, they're supposed to ask Rule if that thought ever popped in his head. So you might have an answer by the time you get to watch this. So I hope that's the answer. I really wish we would have seen him at least for a drive to kind of see if it gave us different looks. But you never know. Emmett Johnson, leading carrier, 12 carries, 73 yards, average just over 6 yards. Good day for him. He actually got the start over Anthony Grant, who only had 6 rushes for 23 yards. I don't know what's going on with Anthony Grant, man. I don't know if he's fumbling way more in practice because, yeah, he has lost a couple of big fumbles this year. But, for him not to start and only get 6 carries and Satterfield to make comments in his pressers during the week that he thinks that Grant is one of the best running backs in the Big Ten just doesn't add up. So I'm kind of wondering where that kid's mental state is, and I'm hoping the best. And I think he's a good athlete, and he can offer us a lot. He just jump cuts and makes a couple of weird decisions. But our running back room is very depleted, as you all know. It'd be nice to have Gabe Irvin Jr. and Ramir Johnson back, but rags to riches, So I thought Emmett was good. Malachi Coleman, first start as a Husker, true freshman from Lincoln. Wow. He was all right. He had a drop early in the game. You kind of hope, he bounces back from it. It's maybe a lot of nerves, a lot of pressure, but then he catches a 44-yard touchdown route on a option fake. Beautiful, great ball from Harburg. Best I've seen him throw by a billion, especially with some of the other throws he missed during the game. Missed a comeback route to Alex Bullock, and he missed a route, that first route where he threw the pick. He's just not a very consistent thrower, but he threw an absolute dime on that one. Coleman got by him. He's quick. Everybody knows how fast he is, and hopefully that builds his confidence because he's going to have to take a lot of snaps these last few weeks because, like I said, Billy Kemp went down. We're already riddled with injury at the wide receiver position. So big catch for Malachi was awesome to see. Homage to Osborne. I think that's kind of Rules really pushed it, and maybe it's just to win over the old folks and Nebraska fans. I think it's great. Osborne's a great coach. I am not doubting that. I wasn't live for any of his time, but maybe, take his news from him, but let's kind of keep us, modern us. I think Sipple says a good way. He says, you don't have to live in the past, but respect it. Let's do that a little bit more. I think we could be better at that. But anyway, our offense was inconsistent at best. It needs to be better, but I think every Big Ten West team could probably say that. And we got it done. At the end of the day, we got it done. Let's take a look at team stats. Defensively for both teams, the positive side, I guess, is on third down, Nebraska was 4 for 12 and Northwestern was 3 for 15. That's just bad offense. That's just Big Ten football right there, I guess. I mean, it was a beautiful day. It had nothing to do with the weather, nothing to do with the wind. 72 and sunny, and these offenses just still can't get it done. 257 total yards to Northwestern, 248 to Nebraska. Now, it's a little skewed because Harburg took a 6-yard knee at the end of the game and then a 2-yard. So he lost 8 yards within the last 2 plays. That didn't mean anything. So if you're somebody that wants to count those, that we lost in yardage. But if you're somebody who is knowledgeable of the game, you know that it was pretty much dead even, which isn't a good thing for Nebraska because I think we have more offensive weapons than Northwestern. They're not very good. We just can't really figure out what or piece things together. 2 interceptions we already mentioned in the first quarter just can't happen. Thank God it was Northwestern because we run into Michigan State on the road or Maryland at home or even Iowa. We throw 2 picks in the first quarter. It's not going to be good. I mean, maybe Iowa at 6-0, just like it was Northwestern, but you just can't turn the ball over like that. The Big Ten West is so skewed this year. It's hard for me to even say that you can turn the ball over and you'll be okay, but that's kind of what it is. The offenses are so bad, and from what we've seen. I mean, the largest scoring Big Ten West game yesterday was like 25-21. Wisconsin beat Illinois, and that was by a mile. Like Minnesota beats Iowa 12-10. It's just bad football. Big Ten West, baby. Only 3 Nebraska penalties yesterday. That's a nice change of pace from the 5 procedural penalties we had at Illinois. Granted, there was a lot of stuff going on, Rule was touching on, but only 3 penalties to Northwestern's 8, which cost them 75 yards. It's big. It's how it should be at home. It's a clean football game. I think there could have been a couple more holds on Northwestern. I think on one of their long passes on their side of the field, I believe it was the third quarter. Northwestern, yeah, it's third quarter. Northwestern got a long pass down the sideline. They just missed a blatant hold on MJ Sherman on a 0 blitz that he would have annihilated the quarterback just right across the chest. They missed a hold there, but I thought the crew was pretty good. They did good with subs and stuff like that. It wasn't the worst thing in the world. They just talked too much. Time of possession, Northwestern wins it 30 minutes and 52 seconds to Nebraska's 29 minutes and 8 seconds. Pretty even game on paper, but it was so weird, man. It was just slow. Felt like watching in Iowa the last 5 years, and that's not a shot because we're basically the same on offense. We're not any better, but it was just so slow. It was like true Big Ten football. Maybe that's the key because at least we won. I think that's kind of the end of the story for Nebraska fans is we're winning games, so we can look past how bad they were during it, but we're winning, so it's not as demeaning as when we lost by 1 score every week doing the same thing. All right, let's talk on the black shirts. Last piece, and then I'll get you out of here. But last piece, Nebraska's defense was splendid. I mean, the bend don't break mentality. I already talked on the 2 big plays from Omar Brown, Malcolm Hartzog, the Gifford screen pass. He made a great play on that. Statistically, going to take a shot at his last name. True freshman, great day. 7 tackles, 3 solos, 1 sack, 2 tackles for loss. He was all over the place all day. That's going to be a big name that you're going to see popping up over the next 4 years, pending health. But he was great. Isaac Gifford, great. 7 tackles, 3 solo, half a sack and a tackle for loss. Nash Hutemaker, 7 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 2.5 tackles for loss. Could have been another one if he had like 10 pounds less on him because he was chasing down Brennan from Northwestern, but he just couldn't get to him. It was just, I think it got to him a little bit. And then one player that stood out to me, and we talked about it initially right after the game, James Williams, the Iowa Central transfer scout team until this past week, comes up and makes a massive sack on one of Northwestern's final drives. You get up, here's this kid. Who the hell is this? He's huge. I mean, great play. He's quick off the edge. Maybe he's not, the most talented or highly touted guy that Nebraska's ever seen, but what a big time play. And so it really shows you kind of how Rule's using these scout team practices, and he's really taking them seriously. And hopefully it shows a lot of those guys that if they step up, make plays in practice, they're going to have an opportunity in games. And Williams made the most of his. So what an awesome moment for that kid. 8 sacks coming from this defense, 13 tackles for loss. You want to be a defensive football team. You want to be a defensive football team. That's a stat line that you're most likely going to win games. I think we're going to have our hands full with Purdue, but what a good win. I mean, we'll take it. We can take them wherever we get them. I know that Nebraska fans have been kind of waiting for this era. We're 4-3 since the first time since 2019. It doesn't feel great when you look at it on paper, 4-3. That doesn't sound too good, but it feels good. Feels good, man. And that's not a knock on our fan base, our team. We're rebuilding. I wouldn't say Matt Rule's ahead of schedule. I think there's a couple of games that we could take back. But 4-1 in the last 5. You lose to the number 2 team in the country. You win a game at home in the ugliest fashion I think I've seen in a while. We'll take those. So good win. But moving on to Purdue, we'll drop a preview here middle of this week. Recap episode this week, I think, will be combined with our preview. I'm not sure on the Play the Fight song side, but should be a good week. Week 9 slate's a little slower, so look for something different from us. Big Huskers win at home. They get Purdue next week. We'll cover it here midweek, and we'll go from there. Go Big Red.